Soul Iluna Inspiration, the Leo full moon, Thursday, January 25th, 9:54 a.m. on the West Coast. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. What'd you call it? I got the Riz.
The Riz, the
Okay.
charisma.
The charisma, the Riz. Martin Comtois, ici, we had a friend from La Nouvelle-Orléans, New Orleans, who said, "Oh, you have such a beautiful French accent. It's like us in Louisiana." And so, bonjour de la Louisiane, all of our other um, subscribers from all over. It's so exciting to be with you, and thanks for massaging the algorithm. Hit that like button uh, and subscribe and share, please. And here we are, a Leo full moon. How does that feel to you, a Leo full moon?
My moon's in Leo, so a little
And
exciting.
mine is in Leo as well. And so, what does a moon in Leo feel like?
Definitely feels playful, but also courageous and always wanting to like tackle the next big thing in a way. How about you?
Yes. Um, you know,
Sometimes lazy.
of course, the moon in Leo for a man is much different than the moon in Leo for a woman. The moon in Leo for a woman, then you like to own the stage. And then same thing with the moon in Leo for a man, but then it's the feminine side. So then that makes for a very feminine light. But Leo has a very interesting reputation, right, of being egotistical and really hard to put up with because they're so flamboyant. But the Leo is not really egotistical as much as he doesn't have a choice. The fire within burns so bright that he simply must shine and light his light into the world. So that Leo is the only sign ruled by the sun, and the sun symbolizes the light that we shine into the world.
Mm.
And so this light that we shine into the world, the Leo has that, wow, I need to shine my light into the world. Like the calling that we have to do these videos. It's not really an egotistical thing. It's a way of contributing and shining our light into the world. So, that's, understanding Leo is really important. In contrast to Aquarius, and we talked a lot about Aquarius in our last video on the month of Aquarius. So the sun in Aquarius, the sun is not strong in Aquarius, and the sun rules Leo. And here we have a full moon, so there's kind of a riddle there, in that Leo, if it doesn't have an audience, if it doesn't contribute to something that is communal, it's a very lonely experience. And same thing with Aquarius. Aquarius, if there's no real engagement with the individual, then Aquarius, Leo can be very solitary. Not solitary, but lonely. And this loneliness, it's a very, that comes in, if we look at the sun, the sun during the day, you don't see any of the planets. All you see is the sun. So we have that word, right? Solitary. Solitary comes from the word soul, which is soli luna. It's the sun. So then this solitary aspect of shining my light into the world, it can lead to loneliness, but that's why we need a community. And so then the myth of the hero shining his light into the world and the Aquarian ideal community are joint axis, and at this full moon, we celebrate that.
Mm. Let it shine.
Let it shine, that little light of yours. Did that make sense to you?
Yeah, I really love that picture of the sun when it's daylight. Like, unless it's a really dark day or it's just setting or just coming up, you don't see the other planets. And that's a nice way to think of how it can be quite solitary. Yeah, it's nice. Thank you. All right, tarot card for this Leo full moon. Oh, the Nine of Pentacles.
Ooh.
I don't know if we've ever pulled that before. Pentacles, I think of how it's the Earth sign, but this full moon, as we're going to jump into soon, is making a T-square with Jupiter and Taurus. And I bet you that's a big piece of this.
Well, that looks very Venusian, huh? The woman with her bird and all of the beautiful flowers and the grapes, you know, the fertility and the nine. So that really is a Venus in Capricorn kind of thing, huh? We'll explore that and see that, but that really is interesting how it put focus on Venus. So let's look at the chart.
So a powerful stacked one. The moon in Leo is opposite the sun. Obviously, this is what makes a full moon. An individual in his community and the experience of loneliness, which you just fleshed out wonderfully. And then there's the moon, sun, Pluto and Venus, Saturn, Yode. So this beautiful green.
Let's start with the square.
Yeah, okay.
The sun, Pluto, Jupiter, moon, T-square, and fixed signs.
Sun, moon, Jupiter.
So let's look at that on the table. So we have moon in Leo, sun in Aquarius, and Jupiter in Taurus. So a fixed T-square. So the T, 290 degrees and the 180. And then the sun is in conjunction with Pluto. We've talked extensively about Pluto and how, you know, everything is got, you know, the beginning of the year is, you know, basically, you know, what I was thinking about is, you know, how Pluto, and then we have a viewer in Florida who says, well, I feel for you guys out in the dark world over there, but we're in Florida, it's nice and warm and sunny.
Oh, nice.
But also the point of Pluto, you know, in all of this Pluto time we've been going through is that there's a process of rebirth taking place in our process. And so then now the sun has passed Pluto. It's still in conjunction with Pluto, but now it's, you know, in opposition to the moon in Leo saying, okay, it's time to shine our light, and Jupiter, let it shine bright, you know. So then that really kind of is a sign that the standstill is over. I did an I Ching reading today, and I got the number 12, standstill or stagnation. And I don't know, you know, in the heart of winter, like we're going through, the stagnation of energy, and how it's up to us to put some energy into transforming the energy. So I think that this full moon gives us a good kick in that.
I love that. Yeah, that shift from Capricorn to Aquarius has been big the last couple of days. I definitely have felt the stagnation and almost like resistance to do what I know I need to do or be who I know I can and want to be, versus as we've gone into Aquarius, there's been a lot more ability to show up for it. So that's been nice.
Yes, a big
Pluto
focus
days.
on who we are being invited to become, huh?
Yeah.
Big focus on that with all of this Pluto energy. Okay, so then with that big kick and that T-square, now let's look at the Yode, because that Yode is a loaded little Yode. Whoop. So a Yode, somebody told me, in one of our comments. So the Yod is an angular relationship of two 150s. So those are the quincunx. And so we have a quincunx of Venus in Capricorn to the Sun in Leo. And then we have a quincunx of Moon to Saturn. So that's called an inconjunct or a quincunx. It's off the, and it's interesting how inconjunct. Anyway, so these two 150s, and then Venus connects to Saturn in the 60 degrees, and then the co-root, the whole thing is strongly influenced by Jupiter, who forms a triangle, and those three planets rule. So then that Jupiterian enthusiasm, the Saturnian safe container, and the Venus creativity in Capricorn giving form to creativity. And then with the Sun, Pluto conjunction with the Moon in Leo. So what's your experience with do you know this angular relationship? Do and what does it look like in a person's chart?
Quincunx?
A quincunx,
Quincunx?
but also a Yode. Do you have a Yode in your chart?
I don't have a Yode in my chart. I've heard it referred to as the finger of God before.
Yep.
And I never quite understood if that was like the tip of it or if that was, because I know sometimes it's like the opposite end actually is holding more of the tension. But so if it was the finger of God in this instance, would that be the Leo moon being the tip?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a dime. It's like a very pointed blade, right?
Yeah.
Also, it's like a teardrop. So then the point of it, and so a tear of God in a sense. So because the two 150s put a lot of tension and a lot of support on, because they're two feminine sign triggering a masculine sign, and so that this energy is focused. But if you look at the at if you look at the Sun and Pluto, there's two semi-sextile going to Venus and Saturn. So then the yod is complete with this little, so it's like really a diamond shape. And with the opposition of the full moon there, the moon Sun, the moon Pluto, Sun Pluto, a lot of intensity, a lot of creative energy in that with the Jupiterian. So then that's I think that this full moon is kind of the reminder, to let it shine, that little light of yours. So what did I write in here? The yod, the creative empowerment of the hero. So the Leo myth of the hero is, in his community, and the Venus Saturn discipline and creativity and inspiration to, because really to be creative is to also be very heroic, right? It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. And discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It means facing a part of yourself. And that's not always easy or not always encouraged in the environment that you're in.
What else is in this? Well, we don't have to bring it up. We have it here. We have a Mercury Mars conjunction. Can you see that? The Mercury is hiding behind. So you got Mercury and Mars and Venus, and right at the full moon, or right after the full moon, Mercury and Mars conjunct exactly. And this is the third exact conjunction of Mercury and Mars in the last 6 months. They've been basically following each other, and because of Mars retrograde, it's sped up ahead of Mars, and now it went retrograde. So is this the third or the fourth? So
I honestly lost track, but we had a retrograde in December with Mercury, and then another
that was the
retrograde.
second conjunction, and this is the third. And then in October, we had a Mercury Mars conjunction also. So you can kind of trace it back to what was going on for you. But how have you been integrating that Mars Mercury narrative in your process?
Mars, definitely a need to check myself and how I and think and work and making sure that those are better aligned. There's been a lot of making sure I'm speaking my integrity and speaking my truth, and a lot of reflection on making sure that's happening. And I really feel it in my heart and soul when I'm not doing that, and having to like recenter faster and more. And also communicating my truth and what I want to be doing versus sometimes I find in life my brain's doing one thing and my body's doing another, but I'm finding that those two things are a lot more succinct lately, and also a lot more awareness around needing to have them succinct.
And being in the sign of Capricorn, it's about manifesting, right? So
Right.
Mars in Capricorn, let's do something. And then Mercury, so communicate intention. And then, as we were talking about the nine of Pentacles, Pentacles is the earth element. And then that Venus, that beauty, and speaking our truth beautifully, and then as we know, Venus, Mars, and Mercury are going to be traveling together, and they're all going to be crossing Pluto together, all coming into Aquarius together. That's a major part. But if we take in context that Mercury Mars and take the Yode and the T square, then at that point, like you say, I think that's speaking your truth. But not just speaking your truth, knowing your truth. I think that before you speak it, you got to know it.
Yeah.
And so then I think that there's a lot of discipline there in Saturn, because Venus, Mercury, and Mars are ruled by Saturn, which is then ruled by Jupiter. So then putting enthusiasm and discipline and expressing and knowing our truth, so that we can shine our light into the world. So then all of the planets, that's what we do when we read a chart. We're trying to understand the dialogue and integrate all of the planets into the story that they're telling. So then the knowing and speaking your truth in light of this hero calling, which is really informed by the Pluto rebirth that we're all going through, right?
Yeah. I think you also hit it with the manifestation piece, where I noticed myself and a lot of people I've been talking to have been manifesting things quite quickly. And so it's exciting and also sometimes surprising. But as we go through this transformation, really trust that each individual is going to be really manifesting their new dreams and how they want to be working in the world and in this new world that we're building.
Absolutely. So in our last video on the month of Capricorn, we talked about when Moon's going to reach Virgo and create an Earth Grand, a 6-planet Earth Grand trine, with a opposition to Saturn, creating a grand kite. So yes, I think that the super manifestation and the enthusiasm liberated by that, Leo moon and that Yod and everything, being aimed at speaking and knowing our truth. And I think that that's what we've been going through. And with that Pluto, the Pluto, it's a descent into hell. But what do we find in that descent? but are true. You know, Pluto means treasure, means riches. So at the bottom, there's a rich treasure, and we can see it in the nine of Pentacle, huh? That treasure, that abundance.
The
And
other
so
side of the darkness.
I was reading about the year of the dragon
Hmm.
and how appropriate the year of the dragon is in terms of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction that's coming up in Taurus as well, right? So that earth element manifestation and the strong dragon energy. So you know, the book was saying, wow, you know, this is new year is going to start with a bang. And so right now we're kind of in the gestation part of it with everything that's going on with Pluto. And then very soon when everything comes into Aries, and then you know, and then we can have the eclipse season. We have that all mapped out in our 2024 forecast. We'll put the link on that at the end of the video. How are we doing?
I think we're doing good. Yeah, there's a lot to be focusing on and shining our light on, and um, I guess I quickly want to speak to. I know we're not doing the cell salt medicinal part. If you want to watch that part, it's in the Aquarius video. But I just keep diving more in, and the Aquarius Leo axis is really our musculoskeletal system and our nervous system and our circulation and how those nutrients go. And even if you're somewhere delicious and warm like Florida, or if you're somewhere cold like Canada here, either way, there's this energetic pull that can be really pulling on your circulation. So it'd be really good to make sure you're tending to your blood and tending to your nervous system as we go through these kind of nervous system taxing days of the winter.
And Leo rules the heart, so also
Yeah.
looking at the heart in with that moon. We got some important dates to show people.
Yeah. Some things to know after this full moon. There's some interesting spots.
The Alchemical Opportunities
So the full moon is on January 25th.
at 5 degrees Aquarius.
Good to note if you have anywhere at 5 degrees of those fixed signs, especially.
Where's your moon?
2 degrees.
Ah, so then the moon, mine is at 8.
Oh wow,
So
it's right between.
the full moon makes a sandwich between our two moons, and so yes, let it shine, let our light shine. The day after, at 6 degrees Aquarius Taurus, we have the exact Sun Jupiter square. What can we do to maximize the influence of a Jupiter Sun square?
I was gonna ask you that. That sounds challenging to me. What Jupiter Sun sounds like you want to expand? Well, I guess it could just be it sounds challenging, but it could be supportive, I suppose. How would you utilize that?
Well, Jupiter and Saturn have a
Jupiter and
Jupiter
Sun?
and the Sun have a excuse me, have a very positive relationship in that the Sun shining my light into the world, Jupiter's kind of a magnifying glass, so it makes it bigger, but it makes it harder. It's it's like the enthusiasm, the Sun by itself, Leo, is very enthusiastic, but then with Jupiter, it makes it really big.
And the moon will still be in Leo when that happens. The next day?
Yes.
Huh.
And so then quite a fiery, so that's 26. Then what next after that?
So what would you say for, sorry, the Jupiter and Sun? How do you utilize that?
Well, I would say keep it cool, but like there's a lot of enthusiasm in that, so there may be a lot of energy available, so then making a little ritual to honor the square as an opportunity, because Jupiter inspires the Sun to shine its light into the world, and again at the full moon, we have a T-square with the moon and the sun and Jupiter. So then that will continue. So that's kind of the flavor of the full moon, the Jupiterian full moon. I think that that's going to be felt as very hopeful.
I just had a little inkling, like maybe there's also a piece of being careful not to overcommit. Committing and doing new things is great, but that Jupiter I know can kind of make things so big, and then these fixed signs think they're gonna, it's like gonna all happen, but then it is winter and Pluto is still very much close to the sun, and there's still a need to
I think as
not overdo.
Jupiter gets closer and closer to Uranus, that's going to be a factor.
Okay.
But with all of the darkness, lack of light that we've been going through, and then over here on Vancouver Island, it's been deep fog and low clouds and cold, and now the snow is melting, but it's been very, we haven't seen the sun. So hopefully the full moon burns out the clouds and we get to see some sunshine, and that sunshine is going to be very inspirational. So I don't think that at this point it's too much Jupiter.
Okay.
But when Jupiter gets to Pluto to Uranus, then I think that slowing down and watching where you step is going to be really important, because that feels like crisis to me.
Right. Well, we got a few months. Up next, sooner than a few months from now, January 27th, Mercury and Mars conjunct.
So then that Mercury Mars at 17 Capricorn is in trine to Uranus, and so it's going to be there's very inspirational again, Mercury, Mars, Uranus, the conjunction. So I think it's a lot about information, and so I think it'll be a really good time to kind of connect with the gods and get clarity on what it is that I'm supposed to be doing.
Be a jam-packed inspirational weekend, hopefully, here Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then later on into February, so the following weekend, kind of, February 5th, the sun will sextile Chiron, 16 degrees of Aquarius and Aries. What would you say to watch for with that?
Well, we haven't given much press to Chiron lately because it hasn't been constellated very strongly. But as spring comes along, and especially in March and especially in April, we're going to have an eclipse season in conjunction with Chiron. So a new moon and a full moon eclipse in angle, in conjunction. The sun will be in conjunction with Chiron. So I think that there's kind of a kind of a gentle reminder to sextile that, the conjunction with the sun and Chiron is coming up. How are you doing with your healing work? How you doing with your childhood wounding? How you doing with the necessity to keep your healing in the focus? I don't think it'll be the main, a very strong feeling, but kind of like a preview of coming attractions.
And then that same day, Mercury comes into Aquarius and meets up with Pluto.
Okay, so on the same day, Mercury-Pluto conjunction. So the trickster goes down to hell. So some very interesting messages will come from that. And that happens on the same day that Sun sextile Chiron. So Pluto Chiron, we're building into a Chiron Pluto square that we'll see a lot in 2024 and 2025. So that, there's the small picture of today's, full moon, but then there's the wider pictures of the events that are unfolding collectively. And so then this focus on giving a voice to the ancestral gifts and giving a voice to the healing gifts that lie in the ancestral line. So Chiron, Pluto with Mercury and the Sun. Keep an eye on that for February 5th for sure.
Like it. And then a few days later, we're going to have one crazy Aquarius new moon. On the day before the Aquarius new moon, the sun's going to conjunct Uranus. So, Uranus being one of the rulers of Aquarius. And then the next day is the new moon, and it's going to be conjunct Uranus. That'll be a interesting new moon. Uranus Aquarius new moon at 20 degrees of Aquarius. So look at your chart, 20 degrees of any of those fixed signs. Watch for that.
So the sun square Uranus. So then that means the new moon will be in square to Uranus. So then we're starting to feel that Jupiter Uranus building conjunction as the sun makes a square to Jupiter and then to Saturn. And now both planets are moving. Are they ended their retrograde now?
I think Uranus goes out today or tomorrow. Yeah, by this time they'll be both done out of retrograde.
And then Jupiter's already turned direct, so they're going to be moving rapidly towards each other. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then we have those two, Mars conjunct Pluto on the 13th and Venus conjunct Pluto on the 17th. And then a few days later, Mars and Venus make a conjunction. And so that's going to be our February kind of highlights. And then by then we'll be done with the Pluto thing. And then Jupiter, Uranus will become the main attraction.
So enjoy these Pluto times while we got them.
Well, it's a very important time of, and I think that we're quite fortunate in the North because there's something very creative about winter and seeing nature die. For many years I lived in California and then I lived in Hawaii, and you don't do the descent into hell and the descent into darkness quite as well when the weather's always nice as when you have to go through winter. And it's interesting how the weather matches the astrological, symbolism so perfectly. At least that's what I found. And tell us, because you're in different parts of the world, and we're really curious to know how you're feeling this yourself. And I know a lot of you give us some very encouraging comments on how well we're doing. So your comments and your feedback, and it's really important to us as well. So please share with us, and we continue to grow our little community. And a little bit more about the Nine of Pentacles. It seems very fertile, huh?
It does seem very fertile, very abundant.
That's what they were saying about the year of the dragon, in that it's a really good time to set your sight on something and work really hard to achieve what you want. Let your light shine, just rawr, and so we're going to be talking more about the year of the dragon coming up. And this is the Leo full moon. Anything else, my dear?
Dream big. I think this year there's a lot that's saying that if you have a good container and you have new ideas and ways that you want to live your life after the crises of the last few years have been showing you about yourself, that this could be an amazing time to really manifest the life you want to be living.
Well, certainly you gotta be truly living, because if you're not, and you just telling yourself stories about how you think you're really living, but you're not really going after what's really important in life, then this may be a very challenging year for you. And so then, knowing your truth, speaking your truth, and shining that little light of yours into the big, great world that we live in. Thanks for sharing this time with us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Dayana.
Thank you, Marta.
Over and out.
Bye for now, everyone.